Right now, beneath the Bay of Naples, the water is physically boiling. It started as a few scattered patches of foam, easily dismissed as a seasonal anomaly. But within days, those patches multiplied into a frantic, churning network of bubbles that turned the clear blue Mediterranean into a cloudy, sickly green. Fishermen were the first to notice the change. Not just the color, but the sound. A low, rhythmic vibration humming through the hulls of their boats like an engine running deep underground. For decades, scientists have monitored the supervolcano known as Campi Flegrei, looking for the specific red flag signals that would indicate a reawakening. They just found them. The boiling patches in the sea aren't just releasing gas. They are releasing a specific chemical signature that matches the exact conditions recorded before the last major eruption in 1538. This is not a drill. The ground is rising, the gas is changing, and the sea is heating up for a reason that could reshape Europe. You need to understand exactly what is happening beneath the surface. Because while the official statements remain calm, the data tells a terrifyingly different story. The first sign that the situation had escalated wasn't a number on a screen. It was the behavior of the ocean itself. Locals know the moods of the bay better than anyone, and they watched as the water began to act in ways that defied the tides. The bubbles appearing off the coast of Pozzuoli weren't drifting lazily to the surface. They were venting with violence, appearing and disappearing in minutes, suggesting a pressurized source rapidly opening and closing valves in the seabed. When marine technicians lowered probes into these boiling clusters, the readings were immediate and alarming. The temperature of the seafloor wasn't just warm, it was hot. In some areas, the water had heated enough to push fish out of the territory entirely. Thermal cameras flown over the bay confirmed the extent of the crisis. Broad glowing streaks of infrared heat were spreading across the seabed like a spreading infection. This wasn't a localized vent anymore. It was a massive body of pressurized heat moving upward, searching for a way out. But the heat was only the symptom. The cause was hidden in the chemistry of the bubbles themselves. When scientists analyzed the gas breaking the surface, they found carbon dioxide levels spiking far above the baseline. But more critically, they detected helium-3. This is a rare isotope that doesn't just hang around in the crust, it comes directly from the mantle. When helium-3 spikes, it means one thing: fresh magma is moving. It is ascending from the deep reservoirs, melting its way through the rock and getting closer to the surface. This movement has triggered a chain reaction in the land above. The phenomenon is called bradyseism, the gradual uplift of the ground, but there is nothing gradual about what is happening now. After months of slow movement, the uplift suddenly accelerated. In just a few weeks, entire neighborhoods in the town of Pozzuoli were shoved upward by measurable centimeters. This might sound small, but in geological terms, it is a sprint. The force was strong enough to reverse the flow of drainage systems and crack the pavement of city streets. Residents began reporting that their doors wouldn't close and windows were jamming in their frames. Unmistakable proof that the buildings they lived in were being warped by the pressure building beneath their foundations. Civil engineers rushed to inspect critical infrastructure, finding subtle deformations spreading across bridges and schools. Even the shoreline began to creep outward, exposing ancient rocks and Roman ruins that had been underwater for generations. The land isn't just shaking, it is inflating like a balloon. And then the earthquake started. In February alone, nearly 2,000 seismic events rocked the area. But it's not the quantity that has seismologists worried, it's the depth. These weren't deep tectonic shifts. These were shallow tremors, clustering just a few hundred meters below the surface. This is the kill zone for the crust, the exact depth where superheated fluids and pressurized gas forced the rock to fracture. The quakes began migrating. They moved from the periphery toward the center of the caldera, clustering directly beneath the most active gas vents. This migration is the crust screaming under the strain. It indicates that the internal pressure is no longer contained in the deep chambers. It is pushing against the final layers of rock that separate the magma system from the open air. But to truly understand the danger, you have to look back at history. The data flowing in right now is eerily similar to the logs and accounts from 1538. That was the year the Monte Nuovo eruption occurred. In the weeks leading up to that event, the coastline receded, the ground swelled, and the sea began to boil. An identical sequence to what what we are witnessing today. In 1538, the eruption created a brand new mountain in a single week. Researchers comparing the modern chemical signatures to historical records found that the mix of gases venting today matches the pre-eruption conditions of 1538 almost perfectly. The only difference? The readings today are stronger, and the area affected is far larger. This realization has triggered a quiet but intense shift in emergency protocols. While the public announcements remain measured to avoid panic, the actions on the ground speak volumes. Italy's Civil Protection Agency has silently escalated its posture. Internal bulletins have gone out to regional offices, instructing them to dust off evacuation models that haven't been touched in years. Sirens in coastal towns are undergoing unannounced tests, their sudden wails catching tourists and locals off guard. In schools, teachers are rehearsing exit procedures that look suspicious, like emergency evacuation drills, though they are framed as routine preparedness. Notices have started appearing on street-level boards, new assembly points, adjusted hazard zones, and revised traffic flow maps. The government is preparing for a mass departure, even if they aren't explicitly saying the words. The nightmare scenario they are preparing for isn't just a standard volcanic eruption. The Campi Flegrei system is unique because so much of it lies underwater. Experts warn that if the pressure continues to build in the shallow hydrothermal zones beneath the bay, the first breakout might not be a column of lava, but a hydrothermal explosion. This happens when superheated water trapped under immense pressure suddenly flashes into steam. The expansion is instantaneous and violent. A confined pulse of steam could drive an underwater blast capable of lifting a column of scalding water, ash, and shattered sediment straight into the air. Models show that even a modest burst of this type would send a tsunami-like wave slamming into the nearest shoreline within minutes. The danger here isn't the scale of the explosion compared to a super eruption, it's the proximity. Ferries, fishing boats, and waterfront homes sit directly on top of the barrel of this gun. The impact window would be brutally short, too short for a coordinated evacuation if the warning comes too late. This is why the bubbling sea is such a critical indicator. It is the fuse. The monitoring stations are now lighting up with red alerts across every variable. It's the convergence that is terrifying. If it were just earthquakes, it could be tectonic. If it were just gas, it could be a release valve. But it is everything at once. The ground is rising, the quakes are shallowing, the gas is magmatic, and the sea is boiling. The system is tightening like a clenched fist. Deep underground, high-resolution radar has confirmed that the main magma chamber is expanding. Molten rock is melting its way upward, softening the crust and creating new pathways for heat to escape. The barrier between the magma and the surface is getting thinner, and the crust is brittle from years of stress. It is a fragile lid on a boiling pot, and the heat is being turned up. The locals feel it. The conversations in the cafes of Naples have shifted. People are noticing the extra patrol cars near the monitoring stations. They see the helicopters scanning the fumarole fields more frequently. They notice the late night meetings in municipal buildings where the lights stay on until dawn. The atmosphere is heavy with the kind of tension that precedes a storm. Everyone knows that living on the Campi Flegrei means living on a ticking clock. For decades, that clock has ticked quietly in the background. Now, the ticking has stopped and the alarm is starting to ring. The question is no longer if the system is changing. The question is how much time remains before the pressure finds a breaking point. The bubbling in the Bay of Naples is a message from the deep earth. It is telling us that the giant is awake. The scientists are watching the screens, the government is updating the maps, and the sea continues to churn. We are tracking this situation hour by hour. As new seismic data and gas readings come in, we will be the first to break down exactly what they mean for the safety of the region. If you want to stay ahead of this developing story and understand the forces shifting beneath our feet, make sure you're subscribed. The earth is moving and we are watching.